And in my mind, I was just thinking, Ryan, come on, get this undone, get this undone. And I was just pushing the buckle as hard as I could. But obviously the seatbelt was in safety mode, doing what a seatbelt should do. It was locked. And this guy was just pounding my head and he was not stopping. And at one point I thought to myself, you know what, Ryan, this is how you're going to die. This is how you are going to die.
My guest today was declared dead after having a traumatic brain injury. Today, we're gonna hear the story of how he came back to life after having an out-of-body experience just to find his purpose in life. His name is Ryan Nurse. He's an author and a speaker and a coach. Stay with us and enjoy this conversation.
Yeah, growing up, I was a happy kid, and I really like to see other people happy as well, you know. Like, I really was sort of like the person that would go out there to make the other kids laugh, and I always loved to have fun when I was a child, and I just loved seeing smiles on people's faces. But I was a very confused kid, you know, because when you see children, a lot of children have these dreams and ambitions, you know, like I want to be a pilot or an astronaut or a police officer. For me, I had no goals or visions as a child. I just knew I just wanted to grow up and just enjoy life and have fun, you know. So when it comes to sort of teenage years, when you're going through secondary school, I found myself not really knowing what to choose as, say, GCSEs or to what path to go down in life. And when it comes to, say, choosing a job for my works experience, I didn't really know what to do. So I ended up going on to learn to become a mechanic, you know. So the reason why I done that was because I really enjoyed riding motorbikes and messing around with cars and bikes and just things like that when I was a child. So I went down the route of becoming a mechanic, you know, because if I like motorbikes, surely I'm going to enjoy cars. And I decided to pursue that pathway, which was to learn to become a full-time vehicle technician. Things were going well. I was going on the path to becoming fully qualified. And then it comes to one night that literally completely transformed my life. And some people may initially look at it that it, say, transformed my life for the worst to begin with. But now from, say, a more mature set of eyes, I look back and it would turn out to be one of the best things that ever happened to me. So what happened, I went out one night to a local nightclub with some friends, and it was maybe a 10-minute max drive from my home, and it was so local. We'd go there sometimes 2 or even 3 times a week, you know, and we knew everyone knew us. We noticed there was a group of guys that wasn't from the area, and we'd never seen them in the club before, and they just looked like they were out to cause trouble, you know. And a little later in the evening, these guys ended up having an argument with, say, my older friends. So bearing in mind, I'm an 18-year-old boy at the time with my friends, and say our older friends were maybe 25 to 28 years old. And me and my friends, we decided to leave. So it was me, a couple of my younger friends, and a slightly older girl friend of ours. And we decided to leave the club, and we got into a taxi. And as we were leaving, these men, basically, that we didn't know, that were arguing with our friends, they come out and they decided to remove us from the taxi. So after a short disagreement, we decided it would be wise to take a separate taxi back to the safety of our parents' homes. So we got into a separate taxi and we left the club. We turned left out of the car park and we turned left again onto this dark, unlit road. And as we're driving down this road, we noticed that the bright white headlights of that same vehicle that we just got removed from was right behind us. And it was flashing, it was tooting. And then suddenly, through our driver's walkie-talkie, was the angry voices of these men. And they were demanding that we pull over. So me and my friends were obviously panicking. We was nervous. We was confused. And the driver started to slow down. And the same vehicle that we got removed from with these guys in, they pulled up behind us. They switched the lights off. And then there was just this eerie sound of silence. And we were looking at each other thinking, like, what's going to happen next? And then suddenly there was this bam, bam, bam knock on the front passenger window, and my friend who was in front of me in the seat in front, he opens the window, and as he did, he began to get punched through the window. So obviously, me and my friends were panicking. We was nervous. We was worried. So the girl on my right side and my other friend, they jumped out of the right-hand side rear door, and I opened my door to try and stop this madness. And as I did, that door was ripped open, and I was greeted with the same fist. I hadn't even had a chance to take my seatbelt off, so I was glued to the back of my seat. You know, I was sat there like a sitting duck, and this guy was just pummeling my head. He was just pounding me in the left side of the temple, and it was like a machine gun. You know, it was bam, 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 and it wouldn't stop. And I was just so desperate on trying to get this seatbelt undone because, like I say, I was stuck to the seat. I had nowhere to go. And in my mind, I was just thinking, Ryan, come on, get this undone, get this undone. And I was just pushing the buckle as hard as I could. But obviously the seatbelt was in safety mode, doing what a seatbelt should do. It was locked. And this guy was just pounding my head and he was not stopping. And at one point I thought to myself, you know what, Ryan, this is how you're going to die. This is how you are going to die. You need to get this seatbelt undone. So I just focused all of my energy on getting this seatbelt. The buckle popped and I was just pressing as hard as I could. And then suddenly there was this slight relief and bam, the belt come undone, the pressure released. And as soon as it did, the guy just disappeared. And I just jumped over to the right-hand rear door. I opened the door and I run out. And I remember I run across the road. And as I looked back, I just saw my friends getting beaten. And I thought, oh, my God. And my head was pounding. And not at one moment did I think I should ring the police or an ambulance. I just thought I need to get home as quick as I can. And I didn't know the damage because there was no blood, there was no bruising. I sort of talked my friends into taking me back to my home. And the last thing I remember, my friend, was walking up to the front door of my parents' home. And I put my hand on the handle. And I opened the door and I put one foot through. And then after that, I just completely blacked out. So they go to my bed and they try and wake me up. But they failed to wake me up. There was no response. So at that moment, they decided to obviously ring the paramedics, the emergency services. And yeah, I had to go straight in for an emergency brain operation where I suffered from a fractured skull and a blood clot due to a bleed on the brain. And I had to be put into an emergency induced coma because of the severity of the injuries. And then when my parents finally come to see me that evening, I was laying there in the intensive care unit and they obviously spoke to the specialist doctor that done the operation on me. And he said, look, due to the severity of Ryan's injuries, it's not looking promising. And we would really suggest that you sort of think worst case scenario because it's not looking like he's going to be here in the morning. Like, although he's on the life support machine, it's not looking good. And we think that's sort of the end of the road for Ryan. So you can only imagine my parents obviously driving back that evening together, just in dead silence and thinking, what are we going to tell his brothers, his sister, his friends? And they had to go and make that, say, difficult conversation with all my family, which they did. And then the second day, I was still obviously being kept alive by the life support machine, no change. So they were just sort of glad that I was still there. And then on the third day was, say, one of the more significant days, which was my parents were called that morning by the specialist. And the specialist said, look, we really suggest that you come up to the hospital today. So my parents took the journey there. And my sort of grandparents come as well. And when they got there, they were taken into this smaller room in the intensive care unit. And the specialist was sat there. And he said, look, he invited them to sit down. And as they sat down, they said, he said, like, you know, like he said before, due to the severity of Ryan's injuries, and because I had zero brain activity, I was completely brain dead, they would highly suggest that they consider pulling the plug on my life support machine and switching it off. And you can only imagine what any parent would be thinking in that sort of moment. So there and then, my dad done something which ultimately saved my life. My dad stood up and he said, no fucking way. He said, I know Ryan more than any of you doctors, and Ryan takes his own time to do anything in life. So you need to give him that time. Ryan does everything on his own time. It got to the day that they said they're going to reduce the sedation to bring me out of the coma. And for me, my lungs wasn't functioning, so they had to put me straight back into the coma. And my parents were gutted, and the doctors again were saying, "Look, we're sorry to say, but he's dead. Like he's not functioning, he's not working." But my parents knew deep down that something was still inside me that was still working, and they said, like, you need to give him that. You need to give him a try again. Like, try again tomorrow because he's not done yet. Like, you need to allow him that time. So the doctors agreed, and yeah, they tried again. And the next time they tried, they reduced the sedation, and thankfully for me, my lungs started to work by themselves. So I was breathing by myself. But it wasn't like I sat up and I was just talking and looking around. No, it was just I was laying there, still basically in a coma, although I was coming out of the coma now. I was just breathing by myself. So my parents were so happy, and the doctors were just still constantly saying, look, it's not looking good, it's not looking good. You need to keep in mind that the worst case scenario is probably still going to happen. Like, he's never probably going to wake up from this. A few days later, I was actually gifted an out-of-body experience.
How was this out-body experience?
But you know, from what I saw and what I experienced, I can honestly say that I honestly believe that we as humans only know and understand the true meaning of life is when we experience death. So yeah, this out-of-body experience, I can honestly say it was the most amazing, incredible, peaceful, perfect thing that I've ever seen and witnessed and experienced, you know. And the word that I'd like to use is, it was bliss. So I remember being in the out-of-body experience now, and I'm just watching myself from above, and I'm looking at myself being pushed down a cobbled street on a hospital bed by these two big ladies. And these ladies are talking in this unknown language. It's not French, it's not Spanish, it's not Portuguese. It's just unknown. Like, I've never heard this language in my life. And I'm watching, but I'm hearing, and I'm observing this whole experience unfold. And they're pushing me on this hospital bed down this cobbled street. Boom, 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 boom. And it's bouncing down this slight decline, sorry. And all I hear in this, like, as I'm watching through these other set of eyes, these eyes that I don't know who they are, I'm experiencing it through someone else's vision. And all I'm hearing is, they're going to drop him. They're going to drop him. They're going to drop him. And my body was slowly falling off of this bed. And I was bracing. I was thinking, they're going to drop me. Like, I'm going to fall off this bed. I'm being pushed down. And then suddenly, as I'm about to fall off, we make this sharp left turn through this giant glass set of sliding doors into this huge reception area. And I'm watching again from the side here to the left, and they're pushing me towards this front desk. And at this front reception desk, there's a lady there, and she's just pointing to her left. So as we're heading towards her, we just make a turn. And as the bed with me on it turns, these eyes that I'm viewing it through gets taken across the reception area. So now I'm just viewing from a distance, and right in front of me, I'm watching me being pushed towards this brick, like this solid brick wall. And these ladies are starting to speed up. They're starting to get faster and faster. But they're not really moving much, you know. It's hard to explain. Like, they're getting really faster, but they're going nowhere. Like, it's weird, because in this experience, there was no sense of time, space. There was no concept of anything, you know. It was just everything was forever, and everything was like everything. And then bam, they hit the wall, and as soon as they hit that wall, the bed goes up, the wall opens up almost like a cat flap, and eyes slide through it. And as my body makes it through this wall, these eyes that I'm viewing this experience through get sucked, almost like a transition, back into my body. And now I'm viewing it through my body in the out-of-body experience, and I'm just falling through black nothingness. I'm looking down at my body, and I just got a sense, like a falling sensation, and I'm just falling through black, and it's just, there's nothing. So again, time goes by. It just felt like forever. And I'm looking for answers. I'm looking everywhere. And as I look down to my left, just in the distance, all I can see is this small, shining, like glistening outline of a square. And I'm falling towards this square. Because the reason that I know that I'm falling towards it is because it's getting slowly bigger and brighter, bigger and brighter. And then it gets so big and bright, you know. It was almost blinding. It was like that bright. It was just like so intense. I was like squinting, and as I'm sort of closing my eyes, getting bigger and brighter, I closed my eyes completely. And the moment that I closed my eyes, bam, I felt the soles of my feet hit, which was almost like another wall or another flap to like another dimension, My body just slid, and it was like I was in a swimming pool. Whoosh, I slid through, bam, and I felt myself land into the bed. And again, I'm just watching from above, and I'm looking down at my body, and I'm just viewing this whole experience again, just me laying there. And I'm not in a room, I'm not in a room because there's no walls, there's no ceiling. It's just white nothingness. And all I have is a curtain in front of me, and I'm just watching me on this bed. And then some time goes by, and then these people, they come in, and it's doctors and nurses. And they're just talking in this unknown language. And they just pull out their tools, and they start working on me. They start working on my head. And I'm just watching them do it. But there's no sort of blood or sinew or it's not nasty. It's just like peaceful. And I'm watching this experience, and as I'm watching from above, it's the most perfect, peaceful thing that I've ever viewed. Like watching me being operated by these doctors, it was just amazing, and I just felt so at peace, and I felt just like nothing mattered in life. I just felt everything was perfect the way it was. And some time goes by, and they're working on me, and then they start to pack up their tools, and they sort of dissipate like this, and they go behind, and I can't see them anymore. So I'm watching, and I'm thinking, what happens next? The time goes by, and then suddenly it was like another transition, but it's like a Hoover was on my head, and it sucks these eyes back into my body. So like the eyes that I was watching this experience gets taken back into my body, and I open my eyes, and I'm laying there in the out-of-body experience in the bed, and I think, what happens now? So I'm looking around, and again, I'm not in this room, I'm just in this white space with just a curtain in front of me, and these curtains begin to open up, and as they open up, you get the gap that comes through, and as that gap of sort of air, or the air gap comes through, bam, that same supernatural bright white light shines through with such intensity. I close my eyes again, and I'm laying there, and I can just feel it's almost like heat on my face. It's that hot, and I'm closing my eyes, and it's just getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer to the point I think now it's safe to open my eyes. So I open my eyes, and as I look out, as far as the eyes could see, I remember looking, and I saw every single face that I've ever seen in my life. Every single face. It could have been someone that I bumped into the street when I was a child, someone that I bumped into the street 5 years ago. It could have been a childhood friend that I haven't seen since, I don't know, like first school. It could have been a family friend, family members, and it was getting closer, and it was like an order of importance, the closer that it got to me. And then right at the end of my bed was my immediate loved ones, my brothers, my sister, my mum, my dad, my grandparents. And they were all just staring at me. And as I look at them, I noticed that from every single face that I saw, they were just silently sobbing. There was just tears running down their face. I give up, I said I can't do anything else. So I start crying. And as I start crying, I remember I closed my eyes, and I just leaned back on that pillow, bam. And as my head hit that pillow, it was like the biggest suction, like a Hoover was glued to the top of my head. And it was like the most powerful suction I've ever felt. And it just sucked the whole experience out, the light, the people, everything. It just sucked everything up and out of my head. And then again, it was just pitch black nothingness. And I couldn't see anything. All I saw is just black. And my body was really cold in this place, But now I felt my body begin to warm up, and it was getting warmer. And then from far away, I could hear a beep. 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 And it got louder and faster. Beep. 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 And in my head, I'm thinking, that's your alarm. You need to wake up for work. Ryan, you need to wake up for work. You're going to be late. So in my head, I'm thinking, shit, I'm going to be late for work. I'm going to get in trouble. So I'm panicking, And I'm thinking, just wake up, wake up, wake up, Ryan, wake up. You're going to be late for work. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Bam. I open my eyes. And now I'm back in the real world. I open my eyes and I look around. And my body is so weak. And I'm looking. And I'm just in this pitch black room with no windows, all by myself. And I remember I sort of slowly looked down. And I've got needles all in my arm. I have pads all over my body. I've got a tube stuck in my throat. And I'm like, what the fuck? Am I dreaming? Is this real? I don't know. But it was real. And that beeping noise, beep, 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 to my left. I slowly looked round. And that was the life support machine that was keeping me alive. And then as I sort of just looked down at myself, all of those memories from that previous night come flooding back. My brain just got downloaded all the information. I remember where I was, who I was with, what happened, what the taxi was, how many people there was, what happened to me. I remembered every single thing, and all that information just got dropped into my brain, and it just felt like someone had hit me over the head with a baseball bat. And I remember it was so painful. I was crying my eyes out, and I was just crying. And again, this is in the real world now. I leaned back onto my pillow. I cried myself to sleep. Now, I remember I wake up a few hours later. And then as I look out, I remember I just see my mum, my dad, my brothers, my sister. And they're all there. And this is back on Earth now. This is in the real world. And I remember hearing doctors speaking about me. They were saying things like, he's never going to remember anyone. He won't remember his name. He won't remember who you are. He won't remember blah, blah. But in my head, I remembered everything. But I just couldn't tell anyone because I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. So I'm thinking, you don't know what's going on here. Like, I remember everything. And then my older brother, I remember my face is here laying on the bed. He comes up to my face and he goes, I wonder if he remembers who I am. And I'm thinking, you idiot, of course I know who you are.
So you came back from death. How long it took you to recover?
Yeah, so bearing in mind, the doctor said that I wouldn't ever wake up. I'll wake up after the out-of-body experience. And then for that whole week, I was laying in the bed with a tracheostomy in my throat. I could barely move. So for the first few days at least, I remember the doctor just saying stuff. He's not going to remember you. He's gonna do this. He's not going to be able to walk. He's not going to be able to talk.
What are the chances that somebody can survive a traumatic brain injury like yours?
Yeah, of course. So I'll tell you a story of when I went back 1 year later. So I had to go back literally 1 year after coming out of hospital for like the review, you know. And I had an appointment to see the specialist, the guy that done the operation, the guy that saved my life. And I remember I turned up at the hospital. Bearing in mind I have no crutches now, and I'm walking in. I've got a bit more colour in my skin now. I don't look too much like a ghost. My cheeks are a bit more chubbier. And I walk into that room and I knock on the door. Bam, bam, bam. Come in. I open the door on with my dad and we walk in. And this guy's on his, he's got a pen and paper and he's writing. And he looks up. And he went, and he looks again and he went. And I walk up to him and I put my hand out. And I said, thank you so much for fixing me. And he just shook my hand and he went, you, my friend, are a walking miracle. He goes, this never happens. He went, I can't believe it's the same guy. He went, with the severity of your brain injury, with the blood clot, because what it done, I have a picture, you know, it pushes the brain across here. So it pushed my brain over to this side and the brain's got nowhere to go, obviously, because of the blood. And it pushes your brain down your spine. So my brain was starting to go down my spine. And they said because of the blood clot was so big and because like the amount of damage that it done to my brain by, say, forcing it across, the wear and tear, he was adamant at first that I would never wake up. He said usually when he sees a blood clot that bad, he said people never wake up. They will never survive. But then he said if they do, they will need constant round-the-clock care and attention, and they would be in a vegetative state for the rest of their lives. Like they would never walk or talk again, and they would need somebody to look after them in a wheelchair for the rest of their lives. You know, I owe this to my dad. Like I owe my life to my dad, because if it wasn't for my dad telling them no, I wouldn't be here to tell this story. Because
how that phase in your life brought you to where you are right now,
Yeah.
because now you're traveling the world, you're writing a book.
So I started to be grateful. Like, I didn't even know what the word grateful was. I started to practice
Yeah.
gratitude. I started to say, I'm so thankful for this stuff. So I immediately wanted to go and get a pen and paper, and I just started to write stuff down. And no one, and I mean no one, told me to just write down my thoughts or feelings. And I tell you, I just
Mm.
started to write things down. And in that very moment, as soon as I started writing, this pressure from my mind was just like, and I just felt relieved.
What exactly you were writing? You were writing what you were feeling that at that moment, or you were
Everything.
start writing what you wanted to feel?
No, I just started to write exactly how I felt. I felt like I'm sad because of this. Like, I just think I'm going to lose everything. Like, I'm going to lose my house. I've lost my girlfriend. Everything's going wrong in my life. I feel really shit. I
Mm.
wanted to kill myself. I thought drugs was the answer. Like, I just started to write just anything that come to my mind. I just unloaded
Mm.
it, and I just felt the biggest relief of pressure. And then after that evening, I didn't even know what gratitude was, but I started to write down a gratitude list. I started to write, I am thankful for my house. I am thankful
Mm.
for, and then I started to do it in the morning. And before you know it, I started to write a gratitude in the morning and in the evening.
Mm.
Because in that point, before that thought, I would wake up for many weeks, if not months before, and I would wake up in the
Mm.
morning and I would literally scream the words, "Fuck you!" And I screamed it every morning because most mornings I woke up, I thought, why the fuck have I been given another chance? Why have I woken up this morning? Like, I didn't want to wake up, and it sounds so fucking harsh and ungrateful. I didn't want to wake up most mornings, but after feeling that thought, that thinking that thought, and starting to practice the gratitude without even realizing it was gratitude, I realized that the biggest gift that we'll ever receive is life, and that we need to be grateful, because
Mm.
it's said that we all open two gifts every single morning, and that is our eyes. And that's why they call this moment the present, because life is the greatest fucking gift that you'll ever receive. So never, ever take life for granted, because there's so many people out there that haven't had the gift to even open their eyes today. There's so many people that have not had the chance to open their eyes this morning. And there was me being so ungrateful and not even wanting to open my eyes. And the moment that I sort of realized that life is the biggest blessing that we'll ever have was the moment that I started to change my life. And I remember at that point in time, I used to say to myself, going to work was like going to hell. I had to wake up and go to hell every single morning to pay for my membership in prison. And that prison was what we call a home. And like I say, I wasn't even grateful. Like, I had a job, I had the ability to pay for a mortgage, and there's so many people out there living on the street, and they would have loved to have swapped lives with me. And yeah, that's when I sort of just started to appreciate all the things that I had in my life, and I realized, yeah, the nightmare that I was going through was definitely a dream for somebody else.
Mm.
And
Mm.
yeah, I just started to practice that gratitude every day. And when I started to just do that gratitude list without even realizing gratitude at the time, like what the word was, I just noticed, like, I started to attract these small positive things into my life. Like, maybe
Mm.
someone will come and knock on my door and be like, "Oh, I haven't seen you. I just want to make sure you're okay. Just check up on you." I'm like,
Mm.
"This is amazing." Or like something that would just really good happen in my day, like at work or in the shop. Myself, because if you don't have a
Mm.
goal in life, you got nothing to wake up in the morning for. You got nothing to be excited for. And for months, even years, I had no goals and visions. My goal was to just live and just work on my house, and that was it. So now I set this
Mm.
travel goal. I get back to my parents, and before you know it, yeah, I set myself this goal, and every month I start traveling. I'm going away to different places, and I do it for 7 months. And one
Mm.
guy hears my story, and he wants to jump on a Zoom with me. So I jumped on the Zoom with him,
Mhm.
and he heard my story again, and he said to me, "There's so many people out there, young adults, boys and girls, in their teens, and they're literally contemplating suicide, and they need to hear your words to stop them from doing it."
Mm.
It hit me, and I thought, fucking hell, no one has ever said a true word to me, and it just inside my body just felt that was right, that was true. And he said, "So what are you going to do about it?" I was like, "I need to quit my job and share my message." He went, "When are you going to do it?" I was like, I don't know. I've been there for 13 years almost now." He's like, "You need to do it now." He went, "Because if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it."
So when did you finally took the decision to quit your job and do what you're doing right now?
I said to my boss, "Could we have a conversation tonight?" He says, "Yeah, of course." So gets to the evening, 5:30, go upstairs and I'm waiting for him. He comes down, he went, "What do you..." I said, I don't even know how to tell you this, but I guess I'll only tell you the only way that I know. And I quit my job. And he looked at me and he went, "Well done." I thought he was going to be angry, upset, annoyed, pissed off. He goes, "Well done." He shook my hand. He went, "What are you going to do?" So then I started to open up and tell him everything that had been happening and the shit that I went through and how I've been helping people online through this mental health. He's like, "No, it's really inspiring, and I'm going to help you any way that I can. I really support you, and there's always a door open here, and you can come back anytime you want." And I was like, "Oh my God," I made this amazing, crazy picture up in my mind of how bad it was going to be, and it was the total opposite. So I felt really good, and then he told me all the stories of how he went traveling the world when he was younger and stuff. And he quit his job, and it felt so good. And yeah, I spent maybe 6 months off of work, and I'd just done all my stuff online. I started to meet people, I started networking, coaching, I started speaking, doing podcasting. So I made the decision. I sold every single one of the tools that I owned. I sold 2 toolboxes, diagnostic equipment. I sold everything. And I said, "That's it, I'll stop going." So I stopped going to the garage, and it come round to 2022. And I've been doing my things online. Every morning I woke up, I was in a networking group where I do the hosting, I do the jingles in the morning, and I'd set the rooms up. And yeah, it's like a networking event online on this app. And I'm doing it every morning for the last year or whatever. And
A year ago. And now you've been traveling whole Latin America since then.
yeah, so I've traveled from east to west of Mexico, back to the east, the whole of Central America. Then I went to Colombia. Then I went home to England for Christmas. I done a networking event, and all of my friends there said, "You should have stayed there. Why did you come back?" And
you're writing a book right now.
yes, my friend. So last year, when I first went to Mexico, I stopped all podcasting, all coaching, all writing books. I done nothing. I just wanted to embrace myself and experience and meet new people, try new things, and just really dive full in, which I did. But then when I went home, obviously I met many young adults. And I learned so much about them and just this whole world in general, and just people and life. And when I got back to England for Christmas, I said, "I've learned so much over this last 7 months traveling. I've got all the information to carry on with my book." But then I just felt the need to just start from scratch, start from fresh. So when I come back to Colombia, I was like, I'm bringing the laptop and I'm starting from scratch, which I've done. So now I've been writing the book, and it's going really, really well.
Are you telling your story, your life story, or what are you telling in this book?
The book is really it's aimed at anyone, but the main focus is aimed at my target audience, which is confused adults in their 20s. And fuck me, I've met so many of them on my travels. I've met so many young adults in hostels, on day trips, and they're so confused. Their mindsets are all back to front. And bearing in mind, through the adversities that I've gone through, man, I've learned some lessons and some life experiences. So this book is not only just a book to read, put on your shelf, and forget about it and read the next one. This book is a user manual, and it's a guidebook. And every chapter, there's a chapter challenge to keep you accountable. So this book, you go through it and you take every single chapter with a step, and it's like a challenge to not only get your mindset right and your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your relationships, just everything in your life in general to get it on track, but it's to build the solid foundations first, because so many people, especially in their 20s, they want to live their best life and they want to build this amazing future of fulfillment, but they've got shit foundations, like you can never build a skyscraper on a shitty foundations. You always start with solid, strong foundations, and then you begin building on top. So this book here is not only it's a user manual, it's a guidebook to build solid, amazing, strong foundations to then build the future that you want on top of.
What do you see that is the biggest struggle that all these people are going through right now?
I've seen so many people diagnosing themselves with depression when in fact they're just lacking direction. They've got no purpose, no vision. And the person without purpose will find pleasure in distractions. Hence why many people are prioritizing things like drink, drugs, pubs and clubs. Like they're going out clubbing and pubbing and drinking every weekend to avoid their, say, current reality rather than facing it. they're trying to avoid it through these numbing techniques and toxic habits, etc. So number one, like that one as well. Like you need to get rid of those bad habits and build solid habits that are going to be beneficial to you, that align with your goals and visions and your future as well. Purpose is a big thing. So for me, I see so many young adults without a purpose at all. So you need to know what it is that you want in your life first before you even go about doing anything. And you also have to unprogram those old beliefs and programs that have been installed from your parents too. So I see many people with, say, back to front, tainted mindsets that have been contaminated by parents, loved ones, and society growing up from a young age too.
I remember when I was 18, I had a really negative mindset. I didn't know what I wanted to do. When I was 22, I went to travel for a whole year, and I was in everywhere, Latin America, Europe, India, and I came back to start my studies in journalism. But I remember that I was really lost. I didn't have like a guide. I didn't have like a blueprint where to begin with my life.
I say to people, it's okay not to know your purpose or your vision right now, but it's not okay to not be in constant pursuit of it. Because if you don't know what you want in your life, you're not going to find out what you do want by just avoiding it and doing shit on the weekends. Like, don't use your weekends to find out what you want rather than to escape your current reality and just forget about what you currently have. So number one, you need to start by having the awareness that you're not enjoying what you currently have. Because if you wake up every day and you're not enjoying your life, don't go another day. Don't waste your life, because life is the most precious, priceless thing that we ever have. Don't waste your life trying to avoid it or not go after what you truly want. So you need to really say to yourself, right, I'm going to figure out what it is that I want. And you do that by setting your life's GPS, what stands for goal, plan, see. You know, like when you want to go anywhere new in your life, in your car, you need to set your GPS, right? So what's a GPS need? It needs only two things, two pieces of information, which is where you currently are and exactly where you want to be. Two pinpoint pieces of information. So if you don't know what it is that you want in your life now, spend every single day and every bit of your free time figuring out. You need to go out and try new things, test new things to figure out what it is that you want. And then when you do find out what you want, that's when you set your GPS. Goal, plan, see. Just test things out.
Coming back from death, going through depression, then quitting your job, going to Latin America, coaching, helping young guys into find a purpose in life. What is next?
You know, especially like from the out of body experience and stuff, I honestly believe like I was spared my life. Like I was sent back for a reason. I believe that I was sent back to help others through, say, the pain and the adversity that I've gone through. You know, and honestly, like doing my own research, I believe everyone was crying because I hadn't yet completed the task that I was sent here to do in the first place in that out of body experience. That's why everyone was crying. So I believe that my life was spared because now I'm on this mission to use the knowledge and the experience that I'd gained from facing and overcoming the adversities in my life to then help others to become the very best versions of themselves and to be like this beacon of light to help guide people to the place that they need to get to in their lives. So for me, I'm doing it in ways of, say, speaking like this, my book, and my future vision is I'm going to be a multiple best-selling author, and I'm going to be speaking on stages across the whole world, sharing my experience to help others find out and figure out what they do want and guide them by using my knowledge.
Thank you for sharing this with us, and I wish you all the best in your travel in Latin America and with the publishing of your book, bro.
Thank you, my friend, and thank you everybody who will listen to this and maybe change their life for the better. And I wish you all the best, and I'm here to support anyone along the way. So thank you so much.